You know their voices. They shaped your childhood. Saturday mornings, sugary cereal, and the characters that became our imaginary friends. But what if I told you that behind the microphone, some of the most beloved voices in animation were hiding shocking, even dark secrets? Some battled demons in silence, others lived double lives, and a few were caught up in scandals so big it almost destroyed their careers. Stay tuned, because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at your favorite cartoons the same way again. Before we dive in, don't forget you can support this channel by hitting super thanks below. And if you want to relive these shows, I've dropped the Amazon DVD links right at the top of the description. Number 1. The Tragic Tale of Christine Cavanaugh.
You guys thought that was great? Well, maybe I didn't think it was so great. I've never been so scared in my whole entire life. Yeah, okay.
Christine Cavanaugh had one of the most unique voices in cartoon history. A nasal, high-pitched magic that somehow managed to be both endearing and unforgettable. She could switch from the genius arrogance of Dexter in Dexter's Laboratory to the nervous whimpers of Chucky Finster in Rugrats, and even the adventurous spunk of Gosling Mallard in Darkwing Duck. To a generation of kids, Christine's voice wasn't just recognizable, it was comforting. Chucky's anxious muttering captured every kid who felt small and scared. Dexter's booming arrogance gave every nerdy kid a strange kind of confidence. She wasn't just a voice actress, she was the soundtrack to an entire childhood. But here's the dark truth. Behind the laughs and the catchphrases, Christine was fighting her own private battles. By the early 2000s, fans noticed something strange. She vanished. No more interviews, no more red carpet appearances, no more convention panels. She was in her 30s, the prime of her career, and yet she was gone. Cartoon fans wondered if she was just taking a break or if studios had moved on to new talent. The real answer was far more sad. Christine had quietly retired due to mounting health struggles that she never fully explained to the public. Friends close to her said that she was dealing with both physical issues and exhaustion from the relentless grind of the industry.
Hey, Dad! Shouldn't you be out chasing Megavolt or something?
At 2, Gosling. My own daughter wearing a Gizmo Duck t-shirt.
Unlike Hollywood stars who could coast on fame, voice actors had to constantly audition, constantly adapt, and constantly fight for fair pay. For Christine, it was all too much. And then came the darkest twist. In 2014, Christine Cavanaugh passed away at just 51 years old. There was no grand tribute from Nickelodeon, no Cartoon Network marathon, no moment of silence at the Emmys. Her death was so quietly handled that fans only learned about it weeks later through a small obituary in the Los Angeles Times. Think about that. A woman whose voice defined an entire generation of cartoons, gone without the recognition she deserved. It's almost as if the industry wanted to keep her passing a secret, as if acknowledging it would mean admitting how much they had overworked her contributions while she was alive. Today, when fans re-watch Rugrats and hear Chucky nervously whisper, "I don't think this is such a good idea," it hits differently. Those words aren't just a line in a script anymore. They're an echo of a woman who carried fears and struggles of her own, hidden behind the microphone. And once you know the truth, every laugh, every squeal, every exaggerated accent becomes bittersweet. But Christine isn't the only one. One of the voices behind the most beloved cartoon character of all time had a secret so shocking, even his closest friends didn't know until it was almost too late. Number 2. The Double Life of Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc isn't just a voice actor. He is the voice actor. They called him the man of 1,000 voices for a reason. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Tweety, Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, Foghorn Leghorn, Barney Rubble. If you name a character from classic cartoons, chances are Mel Blanc breathed life into them. Without him, Looney Tunes wouldn't just be different, they wouldn't exist.
Well, what do you want?
Good evening. My company has selected you under no obligation to be the proud owner of legal tender amounting to...
We don't want any.
But behind the laughs and catchphrases, "Hey, what's up, Doc?" and "That's all, folks," Mel was hiding secrets that fans never saw. Secrets that bordered on dangerous. In January of 1961, Mel's life changed forever. He was driving home one night when he was involved in a devastating head-on collision. The crash was so violent that he broke both legs, fractured his pelvis, suffered multiple internal injuries, and was rushed into surgery. Doctors later said it was a miracle he survived at all. He slipped into a coma so deep they struggled to bring him back. And here's the eerie part, and it sounds like something straight out of a cartoon itself. For days, doctors tried everything to reach him. Nothing worked. Finally, one doctor leaned down and, almost as a joke, asked, "Bugs Bunny, how are you today?" And then Mel Blanc responded, in the voice of Bugs Bunny, from inside a coma. His connection to the characters he created wasn't just professional, it was woven into his very identity. The accident left Mel bedridden for months. And yet, Warner Brothers still needed Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. So what did they do? They literally brought a recording setup into his hospital room. With a body wrapped in casts and metal rods, Mel still recorded cartoon voices.
Well, I guess you got me, Doc. I can't believe it.
Imagine that. Kids at home were laughing at Looney Tunes, never realizing the man behind the voices was lying flat on his back, fighting for his life. But there's another darker side most fans never knew. For decades, Mel Blanc was a heavy smoker, and his habit eventually caught up to him in the worst way. By the 1970s and 80s, he was battling chronic emphysema and heart disease. His body was failing, but his voice had to live on. There are stories of Mel showing up to recording sessions with oxygen tanks nearby. He would wheel them into the booth, remove his mask just long enough to say a line in Bugs Bunny's voice, then go right back on the oxygen. To children, Bugs sounded energetic and unstoppable. But behind the mic, the man bringing him to life was literally gasping for air. And here's the secret most people didn't know at the time. Warner Brothers deliberately kept his condition under wraps. They were terrified that if fans found out Bugs Bunny's creator was dying, it would tarnish the brand. So Mel kept going, pushing through unbearable pain, never letting the public see how fragile he'd become. By the late 1980s, his health had deteriorated so badly that his son, Noel Blanc, began preparing to carry on the family legacy. When Mel passed away in 1989, his tombstone bore just 3 words. "That's all, folks." The same words Porky Pig used to close every Looney Tunes short. Fitting, but also haunting. Because the truth is, while Mel Blanc gave joy to the world, his life was full of hidden pain, accidents, and secrets that only his closest circle ever knew. But while Mel's secrets were about survival and sacrifice, another famous cartoon voice actor's darkness came from controversy and scandal that almost erased their career from history. Number 3. The hidden struggles of Lorenzo Music. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you know Lorenzo Music's voice even if you didn't know his name. He had one of those instantly recognizable tones. That soft, slow, almost sleepy delivery that somehow carried both warmth and sarcasm at the same time. To millions of kids, Lorenzo was Garfield, the ultimate couch potato, the lasagna-loving cat who made laziness cool.
Odie, you stupid idiot, that's not a bone, that's a fire hydrant. Oh well, maybe it'll make a nice planter or something.
But Garfield wasn't his only claim to fame. Lorenzo also voiced Peter Venkman in the Real Ghostbusters cartoon, bringing a laid-back, sardonic charm that was the complete opposite of the manic, high-energy performances of his co-stars. It was almost like he could lull you into laughter without even trying. Fans adored him. His voice was so distinct that people used to say, "When Lorenzo talks, you just know it's him." He had a gift. But what fans didn't know was that behind that calm, witty voice was a man hiding a battle that would eventually take his life. The truth is, Lorenzo Music had been struggling with health issues for much of his career, largely due to a lifelong smoking habit that led to lung cancer. He rarely spoke about it publicly, preferring fans to see him as the cool, relaxed guy who just happened to sound like everyone's favorite cat. But privately, he was dealing with a slow decline that made his work more difficult with each passing year. By the late 90s, his output began to slow down. Garfield specials became fewer, and his voice work less frequent. Most fans just assumed he was semi-retired or working behind the scenes. After all, Lorenzo was also a talented writer and producer. But the truth was far more heartbreaking. His health was failing. In 2001, at just 64 years old, Lorenzo Music passed away. For many fans, the news came out of nowhere. There hadn't been media coverage of his illness, no drawn-out farewell tour, no major tributes from the networks he helped make millions. Just silence. A voice that had been in our living rooms for decades was suddenly gone. And then came one of the strangest twists in cartoon history. Remember, Lorenzo voiced Peter Venkman in the Real Ghostbusters. But in the Ghostbusters movies, that role was played by Bill Murray. And years later, when the live-action Garfield movies were made, guess who was cast as Garfield? Bill Murray. It's almost like Lorenzo's two most iconic characters, Garfield and Peter Venkman, collapsed into one eerie, ironic circle after his death. Murray himself later joked that he only took the Garfield role by mistake, not realizing who was involved in the script. But for longtime fans, it felt like fate, as if the universe had decided to merge the legacies of the two men forever. There's something haunting about that. The man whose voice gave Garfield his identity never lived to see Garfield become a big-budget Hollywood franchise. And the actor who had been his counterpart in Ghostbusters ended up stepping into his shoes.
Okay, ghosties. Ollie Ollie Oxenfree, come on out. Dr. Venkman prescribes a nice long nap in the containment unit.
It's a reminder of how fleeting legacies can be. Lorenzo's voice sounded effortless, funny, timeless, instantly iconic. But behind it all, he was quietly fighting for his life. And when he passed, it showed us that even the voices that feel like they'll last forever are sometimes silenced far too soon. But while Lorenzo's secret was hidden illness, some voice actors' careers weren't ended by tragedy. They were consumed by chaos and scandal that spilled into the public eye. Number 4. The bizarre fall of John Kricfalusi. When Nickelodeon debuted the Ren and Stimpy show in 1991, it changed everything. This wasn't your typical Saturday morning cartoon. It was grotesque, hilarious, and weirdly disturbing. Kids had never seen anything like it, and parents weren't sure if they should let their kids see it. And at the center of the madness was John Kricfalusi, better known as John K., the show's creator and the original voice of Ren Hoek. On screen, Ren was manic, angry, unstable. Off screen, John K. wasn't all that different. John Kricfalusi was hailed as a genius when Ren and Stimpy exploded in popularity.
You are my true friend. Friend? I'm your friend? Why, of course. You're the biggest friend I've ever had.
But the darker truth was that his work habits and behavior nearly destroyed the show from within. Animators who worked with him described the environment as chaotic, stressful, and even abusive. Deadlines were constantly missed, budgets were blown, and John's perfectionism clashed with Nickelodeon executives who were desperate to keep their brand kid-friendly. Things got so bad that after only 2 seasons, Nickelodeon did something almost unheard of at the time. They fired the show's creator from his own series. John Kay was removed from Ren and Stimpy in 1992, though the show continued on without him. It was shocking, like kicking Walt Disney off of Mickey Mouse. To the public, the details were kept quiet. But to insiders, the truth was that John's erratic behavior had become too much for the studio to handle. But the scandal didn't stop there. Years later, even darker accusations came to light. In 2018, John Kricfalusi was publicly accused of grooming and having inappropriate relationships with underage fans in the early 1990s. Women came forward with disturbing stories, backed by evidence, and the animation industry was forced to reckon with a harsh reality. One of its so-called visionaries had crossed unforgivable lines. John never fully denied the relationships, instead blaming his behavior on mental illness and immaturity at the time. But the damage was done. His reputation, already shaky because of his professional chaos, collapsed completely. What was once celebrated as groundbreaking animation became forever linked to its disgraced creator.
You bloated sack of protoplasm! Hey, Cap, ease off. Oh, hey, I'm sorry, man. I just been cooped up here so long.
And here's the eerie part. If you go back and re-watch Ren and Stimpy today, some of the show's most unsettling jokes, its over-the-top violence, and its strange adult undertones take on a much darker meaning once you know the truth about John Kay. It's almost impossible to separate the character of Ren, unhinged, unstable, unpredictable, from the man behind the voice. The fall of John Kricfalusi serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the chaos on screen isn't just a performance. Sometimes it's a reflection of the person behind the microphone. But not every story of darkness in voice acting comes from scandal. Some are far more heartbreaking. Stories of beloved actors who seemed to have it all, yet were silently battling inner demons no one could see. Number 5. Mary Kay Bergman's Hidden Battle. If there was ever a voice actress who seemed unstoppable, it was Mary Kay Bergman. She had a golden voice. Versatile, strong, and full of life. To Disney fans, she was the voice of Snow White in the 1990s. To Warner Brothers fans, she brought characters to life in Scooby-Doo, Batman the Animated Series, and the Looney Tunes show. But to millions of kids and teens in the late 90s, she was every single female character in South Park. Think about that for a second. Sheila Broflovsky, Wendy Testaberger, Leanne Cartman, Principal Victoria. If it was a woman in South Park, chances are it was Mary Kay Bergman.
You heard me! Stay away from my man, or I'll whoop your sorry hoe ass back to last year! Bye, Miss Ellen!
Week after week, she carried entire episodes by herself, switching between voices so smoothly that most fans assumed it was multiple actresses. She was that good. From the outside, Mary Kay's life looked perfect. She was talented, she was respected, she had a steady stream of work, and she was adored by her colleagues. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park, often credited her with saving the early seasons of the show. They'd write ridiculous scripts with 10 different female characters, confident Mary Kay could handle all of them. And she always did. But here's the dark truth. Behind the microphone, Mary Kay was fighting a private war against crippling depression and severe anxiety. No one knew. Not her colleagues, not her closest friends, not even her husband. She hid it so well that people described her as one of the most positive, bubbly personalities in the industry. But the reality was far different. In interviews before her death, she hinted at feeling like she was never good enough, that she feared her career could vanish at any moment. She lived with constant self-doubt, even though she was one of the most in-demand voice actresses in Hollywood. It's one of the cruelest ironies. The people who give us joy are often the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. On November 11th, 1999, everything came crashing down. Mary Kay Bergman took her own life at just 38 years old. The news stunned the animation world. Her colleagues were blindsided. Trey Parker and Matt Stone had no idea she was struggling. Her husband said he never saw it coming. The industry lost one of its brightest voices in an instant. The aftermath was devastating. South Park suddenly had no female cast.
Well, Miss McCarracash, you certainly tried to put one over on us, boy howdy. Take her away! No! Get away from me!
The show was forced to bring in other actresses to cover her roles, but fans noticed the difference immediately. Even today, longtime South Park fans say that Mary Kay's voice had a warmth and sharpness that no one has ever fully replaced. Her death also opened up a much bigger conversation in Hollywood, one that was rarely addressed back then. Depression, anxiety, the mental health struggles of actors and actresses who feel they have to hide everything to keep working. Mary Kay Bergman's tragedy forced studios to look at how little support there was for performers suffering in silence. Looking back, it's heartbreaking. All those times Wendy stood up to Cartman, or Sheila went on one of her hilarious rants, or Leanne sighed as she dealt with her chaotic son. They weren't just characters. They were Mary Kay, giving everything she had while secretly fighting demons she couldn't escape. Today, every time fans hear her voice in those early episodes of South Park, or in Disney classics where she played princesses and background characters, it comes with a bittersweet feeling. Because now we know the truth. The joy she gave us came at a cost we never saw. And when you put all these stories together, Christine Cavanaugh disappearing in silence, Mel Blanc recording through pain, Lorenzo Music battling illness, John Kricfalusi falling into scandal, and Mary Kay Bergman's hidden depression, you realize something chilling. The cartoons that defined our childhoods weren't as innocent as they seemed. Behind every laugh and catchphrase was a human being carrying secrets we never knew. So what do we take away from all this? The voices that made us laugh, cry, and cheer were often coming from people fighting battles we couldn't see. Behind every Yabba Dabba Doo or Dexter's Laboratory was a human being with struggles, secrets, and sometimes scandals that shaped their legacy. Well, now I want to hear from you. Which one of these stories shocked you the most? And which cartoon voice actor do you want me to dig into for part 2? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and if you want to support more videos like this, hit super thanks or grab a DVD of your favorite shows using the links in the description. Because here at Backstage Tales, we don't just rewatch cartoons, we uncover the secrets they tried to hide. We'll see you next time.